Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Free Market Podcast. This is episode 4, Think Tanks and the Road to Housing Act. So the past couple episodes, I've kind of talked about the problems of renting, how corporations are taking control, the dangers for all of us, and I'm sure some of y'all wondering, well, what's the solution to all this? What is there anything going on in the government? We have all these representatives. They don't really do much, but I mean, come on, they gotta be doing something about this, right? Well, it turns out that they are. So, with the government being shut down for so long, there's been a big delay. But earlier in, I believe it was May. Yeah, so they passed. No, no, not May. Right before they shut down the government. This passed the Senate committee. It's called the Bipartisan Road to Housing Act. It was written by a think tank called the Urban Institute. When you look it up, it's a more pro-Democrat think tank, but as I get into later, a lot of these think tanks they claim to be part of one party, but really they're just whatever corporation funded them. And so this legislation is going to try to help lower prices of housing and renting, and also expand public housing. And it passed the Senate committee with full support. So it seems like both Republicans and Democrats for once are on board with this, which should raise some red flags, right? Because this never happened. So yeah, I'm just going to dive into what it is. So, the Road to Housing Act calls for a couple different things. The first is it wants to provide financial literacy services to first-time homebuyers, so they um, be worried about the risk of defaulting on their mortgages. A lot of people don't realize you see that house for 400K, you see that 6% interest rate. You're like, oh, 6% of 400K, that's all I should have to pay. No, that's not how it works. Over the course of that loan, that interest keeps on compounding, and that $400,000 house you bought, you end up paying $700,000 in interest. So I guess the goal of the class would be to educate people on that, but I think a lot of us know these government education programs. No one really uses them. It's just an excuse to pay whoever created the program. It's just an excuse to hire more people, more government waste. I'm not a big fan of it. You may disagree, and that's fair because I mean, for the people who use it, I'm sure that will help them a lot. I just don't really see this really turning out as a good investment because I feel like people can find all that information online, um, and this can become a whole government thing. But that's not too relevant to what I'm really worried about this. The real thing, two things I'm worried about this is the expansion of Section 8 housing and what's called the end of the HUD um, of the RAD cap. And so basically that means that there's a cap on the amount of properties that used to be normal, like free market rentals, being turned into public housing. And under this bill, that cap will end. So, again, like I said before in the last episode, if you own an apartment complex, why would you not want it to be Section 8? Because you get that government guaranteed. So, I mean, a lot of people who, all across the apartment complexes, all across the country, people, when they lose their jobs, can't pay their rent, they're defaulting, and that's just a big cost to the landlord. But now, if there's no cap and you own a property, maybe it's in, I mean, it doesn't really matter. You can put Section 8 in any part of town. Um, why not turn that into Section 8 property? Because every single tenant that you get, you're going to get that guarantee, whatever the market price is through the year, guaranteed for the government. So I just think that's going to heavily backfire and also, again, put more people in that welfare system, straining their country's resources. Just not a big fan of it. And then the other thing that the bill is going to do, and if you guys want to follow along or check this out yourself, just look up the Road to Housing Act Urban Institute. Janeka Ratcliffe is the author. You see the site and then you download it, and it kind of goes detail by detail about this whole bill. But so what the other thing that they're going to do is they're going to cut building regulations. So things that things that make the apartment expensive to build, all those regulations for the builder, they're going to try to cut a lot of those. And I mean, this goes back to what I've been kind of arguing about the whole time. If we lived in capitalism, free market, that would work, right? You're incentivizing, so you're increasing the supply, and you're making it cheaper for these companies to build apartment buildings. But I mean, we know from COVID. I'll think of COVID as an example. Fast food, right? Um, they raised all these prices. They claim because it was. They claim that it was because of the supply chain, but hey, that's over. Gas is cheap. I mean, I go outside, gas is 250. There should be no supply chain issues. There should be no high moving costs. But McDonald's fries 3 times more expensive than it used to be. I mean, just the amount of inflation we've seen. And is this really inflation? That's the question. Or is this these corporations know and they're colluding together that they can make raise these prices and they can make more profits? And I just feel like throughout all the different industries, this is how it's been. I mean, what we learned in economic supply and demand under this current kind of oligarchical system, when you make things cheaper for the corporation to produce, they're not going to lower their prices. They're going to keep that price exactly what they used to be. These rental properties are going to keep that price for the new rental exactly what it is. They're going to raise it. But now they got to build it cheaper. Now they got to build it less quality. Now things aren't going to be up to code. And the quality for the tenant is going to decrease. You're going to have a worse apartment. You're going to have thinner walls. Your sink's going to be out of line. Things are going to happen. And then, of course, the apartment will then charge you because they say it's your fault. And I mean, maybe if you got to pay a little cheaper rent, that would help, right? I mean, maybe you'd be willing to do that trade-off. But I just don't think that's the case. I think these corporations are eyeing this bill and they are seeing money because now you can build as much Section 8 as you want. You can convert your property into Section 8, and now you can build things for even cheaper. And if they're all in cahoots, if they're all, I think the term economically is a cartel, but not not that type of cartel we usually know. But I just think that they're going to keep price the same and just make more profit. And I just think this bill is classic government red tape, especially with that financial literacy services. Um, no one's going to use that. More money being spent, more waste of our money, worse quality of life for us. I mean, it seems like that's what everything is. And so the other thing I wanted to add, which I almost forgot about, which is crazy, this bill is also going to, the government is going to subsidize those who build Section 8 getting mortgages to pay less interest. And I just want to bring up, um, I found in my research, if I can find it, um, from American Mortgages, a mortgage company, financial advising company. Literally, the article is called Guaranteed Rental Income Profit from Section 8 Investing. And they go all in about how this is the lowest risk thing ever. That's why all these foreigners come over and build it. You take a mortgage and you're able to get huge returns. And then the government's just inefficiency. They're not paying attention. I mean, you can just get away with charging the government whatever price you want, pretty much. And they literally say in the article that this is the lowest risk, highest return investment you could possibly do of any type of investment. And now, in the Road to the Housing Act, they are going to make that investment, that getting that mortgage, taking out a loan to build the property even cheaper. That's just, I mean, that completely goes against the concept of inefficiency. And I mean, that just makes me upset. That just really makes me upset. Like, how about they reduce mortgage costs for actual people? Why are you reducing mortgage costs for the corporation that's going to build the Section 8 housing, which is going to be another bill for taxpayers to pay? I just think it's completely ridiculous. And yeah, I'm just not a big fan of this bill. I mean, I said the name of it earlier. You could look it up. You can check it out. Um, but now I want to get into another reason why I'm very, very hesitant on this bill. So something very similar happened in England, and I don't know how much you guys know about England. I actually have fallen into the trap of watching a bunch of social media about it. Um, so a similar situation. So we all know though that in America, I mean, lobbyists, think tanks, there's a lot of corruption in our government. But I wanted to pull a specific research from another country, similar country to the United States, England, about how they saw how the think tanks kind of shaped their policy decisions for housing. If you don't know, I mean, England is a complete mess right now. I mean, if you think we have it bad in America, I mean, England is on the teetering point of just failing as a country. So the author pulled all this data, political scientists, named Dr. Foy pulled all this data, trying to find out what were kind of the motives behind these think tanks, who funded them, and did the policy that they gave the lawmakers and actually implemented, did it actually lower prices? And I think we all know the answer to this. It did not work out well for the people. It worked out well for the think tanks. It worked out well for the corporations that funded them. So he concluded that there actually was a big influence for charitable and political and economic reasons, and I like to believe that too. I mean, these people in corporations, it's built up people. These people aren't fully evil all the time. I mean, maybe they actually want to help, but the funding for the think tanks um, almost entirely came from corporations that had party-linked political motives and corporations that were involved in the housing market. And in England, they tried to use these legislation, and it just didn't work. I mean, prices kept going up. And then also what they found is that a lot of people who were appointed, yeah. So I want to include this quote. So in his research, he says, for example, in the last 7 years, 3 out of 4 of the special advisors for the housing and planning policy, probably, and then he says, probably the most powerful non-elected official in the land, came from one of the think tank study, came from one of the think tanks that sponsored their housing bills. So you start to look at the motives. I mean, this gets to the point where, and again, a think tank, oh, basically an extension of a corporation because it's funded by them. Government officials are supposed to be people that care about people, about the social well-being. But these government officials are coming from the corporation that wrote the bill to implement the bill that is then, I mean, I guess we could, I mean, to help the corporation. I mean, why else would they? I mean, there's always ulterior motives. There's always that profit-making motive. So, and that's what I'm afraid of with this bipartisan Rose the Housing Act in America. I mean, these people writing this legislation that just passed, they're not even politicians. They're not elected officials. They come from a think tank with political motives that's funded by a corporation. And I just really think I call on you, if you're someone that likes to contact your representative. I mean, just call their office. I mean, I'm sure no one is talking about this right now. No one even knows that this bill is a thing with everything that's been going on with Epstein and the controversy and the government shutdown. I mean, no one is focused on this bill, but this bill is lurking in the Senate. Once things go back to normal, once the files are released, I guess I don't really want to talk about that. Um, this can be next on the table, and it looks like it's going to pass because when do you ever hear of a bill being supported by everybody? And I just think that, I mean, even in the short run, it's not going to slow costs. In the long run, it's just going to make everything more expensive for everyone, for the government. It's going to make things less quality. I mean, people talk all the time about the difference between a new built home and an old built home. We already complain about the infrastructure that we currently build, how it's not as good as it used to be, it's not as solid. And now they're going to cut regulations on that, on codes, to try to lower the price. I mean, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. So, yeah, that's the end of episode 4. Next episode, I'm going to talk about solutions. I mean, what we can do to stop these think tanks, how we can participate politically, and then my personal thoughts on how to resolve this issue. Thanks for listening.